Welcome, Scott. Thank you again for taking the time to meet with me. I had two questions for you.
Okay.
First one, like I said before, is the $1 listings. Now, I'm coming across some listings right now that are just listing homes and condos for $1. So I wanted to get your thought on the pros and cons of doing something like that. Is it beneficial? Is it a great way to market your property, listing it for $1 and then having inquiries come in?
Okay.
What's your thoughts on
Well,
that?
first of all, let's clarify how the $1 listing happens. It started where some commercial agents would have a very specific property, a development land, anything to do with rezoning, anything to do with a specific type of warehousing. And so the idea was the owner doesn't want to show their hand on what they're thinking that they were looking to get.
Which makes sense in a commercial
Right.
side. That does make sense,
So
yeah.
then they would market it as $1, but they would also put in the remarks, dollar is not the actual asking price. Please contact the listing agent. So what they're really trying to do is have a conversation with the agents so that they can then go and say, all right, here's really where the range is that we're thinking, versus actually having the seller say, I want this much money for this property, and people go, well, no, it's not really worth that, so why would we have a communication with you? So that's really how the $1 listing started, is just not, agents not wanting to show the value that the seller's thinking for very specific properties. Now, as far as doing it for a traditional residential condominium, again, all the agents are trying to do is have people contact them to say, well, what really is the price? And so agents are trying to use it as an opportunity for the consumer basically to reach out to them and go, this has got to be way wrong. This is too good to be true, and yet, that's what they're really trying to do. Then it's a matter of, well, it's actually this price, but we are going to look at offers at this particular time. And so just playing that role. I'm not a big fan of it. And also I know some of my consumers and clients are going like, if they're not willing to be up forth with what is actually their value that they're anticipating, I'm not going to be wasting my time.
Makes sense, yeah. That makes sense. And I guess it is a way to gauge interest as well, because all of a sudden, if you're getting a bunch of phone calls going, okay, what is the price? I guess you're now having conversations with people versus just passing over that unit
Right.
without any inquiry. So
Exactly.
that makes sense. So I guess there's pros and cons for that one. The other question I had for you was staging. And I've noticed, at least in the 2024 market, when things weren't really moving and things like that, is there still a benefit to staging a home? I have different feelings regarding that, but I wanted to get your expertise on that.
Sure.
and see what are the benefits, and when should you use a staging company to stage a property, and when you shouldn't? That's
Yeah.
really the basic question.
So I'm a big believer in staging. For any listings I take, I always look at how can we improve this, even minor details. And sometimes sellers, though, don't want any changes. They feel very proud of how their house is being presented. So if you are going to be talking to a seller about staging, you really need to know your seller. Because there are sellers, as I say, are very proud of what they have, feel their house shows the best, because that's what they like. Buying a home, buying anything that is an end user that's going to be either a condominium or detached, semi-townhouse, whatever it is, it's emotional, right? So when someone's looking at that kind of property, how can you raise the emotions? How can you get them to see themselves living there?
Right.
Do you have a house that is, if you're in a situation where the house just needs some minor stuff to really make it look better, like we've been staging houses for, I've been doing this many years. We've been staging houses. 30 years ago we were staging houses, even before staging became, the idea. Our staging really was getting down to painting, changing carpet that was really worn and putting in new carpet, getting all bulky furniture out, and just sort of making an understanding that part of staging is not just everything that's on the walls. It's imagine going through a house with the agent and 2 or 3 other people. How is the flow of the house? That's part of staging as well.
I see.
Right?
Yeah.
So every property needs to be staged when it comes to that point of view. Now, virtual staging is a new thing that people are basically showing online because most of the consumers are online. But still, when they go to walk into that house, there's that first feeling of going in, and all you're going to do is consumers are going to go, can I see myself living here? And if the expectations from virtual staging is great to get the phone to ring, get the appointment to be booked, I totally understand that. But I'm the other belief. I've staged empty vacant houses. I've decluttered. I have an actual stager that will do everything from painting, furniture, decluttering. Like, we've done all kinds of things to make the home be that more inviting. So I'm a big believer in staging. I know some agents aren't, but I've seen the benefit of it where, like, some of the houses I've recently staged in Oakville, it was a $15,000 staging job.
My goodness, yes.
Okay,
And-
but the owner actually netted $75,000 because we did it.
So
That's
it
a
pays.
big-
Yeah. And I think it's what situations would you come across that you wouldn't stage, for example? Something that, is like, it's not worth in the investment. I think we're going to just list it, take the pictures, floor plans, and then put it on MLS.
I believe staging is in every house. Okay. Recently, I had another one that I listed. It was being sold as is. We weren't sure if a builder was going to buy it and just knock it down, if it was going to be a major renovation. So what we ended up doing was staging to a point where it just showed better, in the sense decluttered.
Decluttering,
Right.
yes.
We knew there was stripped hardwood flooring underneath the carpets. The carpets were really badly stained. So it was like, let's spend the time, let's get the carpets out. Okay? But that's the extent of the staging we did. So it was more just making it a little bit more inviting, but also making an understanding that when people got there, they could see what they were dealing with. Even though it was being sold as is, where is, you have to understand when someone's going through a house, they're looking, especially in that situation, how much more money do I have to put into this?
Right.
So if you can answer some of those questions for them by, the other thing I do, part of staging, is I do a pre-listing home inspection. So that is part of my staging, per se, where I know if there's some minor little issues that have to be done, then get them fixed now, so that when the consumer and the clients come through, it's like, we already know what the issues were. We took care of this, took care of this, took care of that. So that, to me, is part of staging as well.
I see. And I think, based on conversations that I've had with you previously, it's just another way for you as a real estate agent to stand out, right?
Yes.
If you can stand out from the rest of the 100,000 agents that are out there, I guess that's one powerful way to do so, is presenting that property in the best light possible for your clients, regardless of what stage it's in, as is or move-in ready. Staging it gives the impression that this is a beautiful home, creates that feeling of, I can see myself in here, and it separates the spaces. I've come across situations where, and the reason I asked you this question is because I come across certain properties that are staged, but I think maybe they're staged improperly. And one example is, I came across a townhome that was very tiny. It was a tiny townhome, and it didn't have the space for a kind of like dining table, essentially. And so what they did was they put the table where the living room was sectioned off, and then they put a sofa but no TV. And right away I saw that, and I'm like, but if you're going to eat there, where's the TV? Where are you going to sit? You have no more space now. And so I think that maybe either was a bad move on the stager's part, or it's just the space, unfortunately, it is what it is.
Yeah, and that's important, to make sure that maximizing the space of the house, as you mentioned, and we have seen in some properties that they say they're staged, but they didn't stage with the right sizing. So you go into the primary bedroom, and yeah, it's been staged, but it's so full of stuff that now it feels, again, understanding you're walking through a property with a minimum of 2, maybe 4 people, all sort of going in the same room. So the flow is really important.
That flow is important.
So yes, you can even do staging that just isn't the right staging.
Right. And another example of that, as I personally came across this, was they staged it, and it was a very nice stage. You know, they did really nice furniture, separated the spaces, very well done, until I went to the basement. And in the basement, they actually put a bedroom in just an open space. There was no closet. Okay. There was a washroom on the other side of the floor, but they put a bedroom, and then they called it a +1 because it's like, well, there's a bedroom. And it's like, but there's no closet. How do you define that as a bedroom?
Well, and if it's only in the open basement,
it wasn't. Yeah,
it's really, in my opinion, not really another bedroom.
It's not really another bedroom.
So the way of possibly trying to make the space seem bigger than it was, versus just calling it 3 bedrooms plus a finished basement.
Perhaps, yeah. So keep an eye on that for people looking in these places. You know, sometimes just because you see a bed, not necessarily a bedroom.
Right.
Well, thank you so much, Scott. You answered my questions, and I'm a big believer in staging now.
Great. I know it works, so by all means do it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Awesome.